Good evening, everybody. Hell's Unicorn here once again, and I wanted to do an addendum to the commentary that I did yesterday regarding the leaks, the diplomatic cables that were put out by WikiLeaks. I've had a little bit more time to do a little bit more reading, and I've been watching a few other videos by a few other users and a couple other independent media personalities, and I am essentially drifting in between a state of agnosticism and a state of complete skepticism regarding the nature of these leaked documents. Particularly, there is a good amount of stuff in these leaked documents that seems to treat the nation state of Israel in a very favorable light, and there is a lot of negative stuff being directed at various Middle Eastern countries. It wasn't just Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of negative stuff with regards to Pakistan, and generally speaking, there's a good amount of stuff that makes Iran look bad and everything like that. And I'm not saying that these governments are by any standard good, but like with all things, it's always best to read the whole thing before you come to an absolute opinion on it. And my remarks last time were more focused on the general concept of the leak itself and not really so much about too much of the content. There was some stuff in there that looked like it was embarrassing for certain politicians, and that kind of tickled my ears a little bit because I have sort of a love-hate relationship with the current political establishment in that I absolutely love to hate them, and to an extent I may have spoken too soon on a few things, but NEUS Moon and a couple other users pointed out to me that there was some stuff going on here that didn't look all that kosher, and I looked into it further, and it looks like there is a bit more going on here. The fellow that runs WikiLeaks, Assange, I mean, I don't know much about the guy, but he strikes me as a bit of an idealist, and it's easy to see how somebody like him could be taken for a ride and could have been handed some stuff that was actually bogus along with some real stuff. The fact that we don't know who actually leaked the information in question, assuming that there actually was a leak, and the fact that a lot of legislation is now being touted to deal with this problem makes this look even more suspicious. The last thing that we need is more laws. We already have enough laws on the books to baffle scholars for the next several decades as they try to ponder over all of it and make sense of it. We have laws that cancel out other laws. We have laws that intersect with each other. We have laws that are never, ever enforced. It just makes very little sense to me that when you have a situation like this, instead of going for what the traditional approach to remedying this problem is, which is good old-fashioned law enforcement, no, we're going to resort to legislation, and we're going to craft more multi-hundred-paged bills that nobody ever reads. This is really very troubling. I mean, I made a pretty good, strong remark about secretive government, and I'm sticking to that viewpoint. I don't think secretive government is good by any standard, but a lot of this crap is essentially happening right out in the open. I mean, anybody who listens to the news can see that we have laws being passed and it's not being read by anybody, at least not anybody who is actually being counted in the voting rolls in Congress. And those people who do tend to read this stuff and point out stuff that's bad in it are usually essentially labeled as kooks and marginalized. So I will essentially say this to anybody who's interested in this topic. Go to WikiLeaks, download all of the material that they've released, read all of it, and use good critical thinking. Look over this stuff, and ask yourself, does any of this stuff sound like maybe it's a little bit less than accurate? Ask yourself if there's anybody that can benefit from some of this information. Somebody in the financial establishment in New York or somebody in some other country. I mean, just, use some good old-fashioned critical thinking and see what you come up with. Anyway, that's pretty much my piece as far as that issue goes. To anybody who's curious, I'm probably not going to be making any videos. I'm not going to be uploading any videos, at least for the next week. I'm going to be leaving the country tomorrow, and I'm going to be going to Eastern Europe, and I'm going to be over there for about 6 days. And when I come back, I'm probably going to be horribly jet lagged, so I probably won't do anything for at least a day or two after that. So if anybody's wondering what's happened to me, that's basically it. I'm traveling abroad, trying to see a little bit of the world before this country goes under complete lockdown, under all this paranoia that everybody has about terrorism. And just while I'm on the subject of terrorism, I've linked to a video. It's an interview that Bill O'Reilly did with Andrew Napolitano. I recommend that all of you go there and watch it, and just, you can kind of see the reason why I'm not really big on Fox News in general, with the exception of Napolitano, and it's just because there's a lot of emotion and not a whole lot of logic going on with a lot of those shows, particularly Bill O'Reilly's show. The guy's the most popular guy, basically in the 8 o'clock primetime slot, and it's because he plays on people's fears. He's like an acceptable version of a shock jockey, in that instead of doing lascivious subject matter, or getting into something that's considered a little bit too risque for most people, he just simply raises his voice on regular mundane issues and makes it something to scream about, and at the same time he doesn't really signify very much in the process, and usually it's his guests that are actually making sense, if and when they can actually get some words across. So feel free to go and take a look at that. That's pretty much it for me on that end, so until next time, with prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.